So in my previous video, we talked about plants that leave me shooked each time I see you, my North American and European girlies, growing them indoors because they do not make good indoor plants. I do highly recommend you watch that video after this one. But today, we are going to talk about plants that, in my experience, they prefer to be indoors. As somebody who lives in a tropical climate where I can grow these plants all year round outdoors, I have come to see and witness firsthand that just because a plant is native to the outdoors doesn't necessarily mean it does best outdoors, especially if you live in a country like mine, a brutally hot nation, an oven of a nation, or if you live in a place where you have really hot summers. I know summer is around the corner. My Texas girlies, can relate, but summer is around the corner, and in some places in the world, especially those that have that continental climate, summers can get very hot. Well, some of these plants don't like it. They may be native to the outdoors, but they prefer, I've come to realize, indoor, dare I say, even slightly cooler conditions in my experience. So I believe that this is going to be a helpful video for you, so you have an idea of what plants actually truly make good indoor plants, and also what plants you shouldn't bring out during summer. I know some of you, when it's summertime, you're eager to bring out all your plants. Every single plant, you want to bring it out in your porch. I've come to realize some plants just want to be inside your house, okay? Okay, let's get to the nitty-gritty. This my notepad is falling apart. The first plant on this list is Scindapsis. So to be honest, I never really had much success growing my Scindapsis outdoors in this nation. They would always call, the leaves will always call, which is typically what Scindapsis do when they are thirsty or when you're giving them way too much light. For a long time, all my Scindapsis tended to look really miserable and called up, and and they were such a pitiful sight to behold, until I told myself, let me actually attempt to grow these guys indoors. I currently have 2 in my care, and they are all growing exclusively indoors. I have this Scindapsis trubia moonlight. Remember when this used to be a hot cake of a plant? Remember when we used to love Scindapsis in the plant community? Remember that now we've all, I guess because they are now too accessible, they're now too common, we all don't want them anymore, but they actually make really great indoor plants. In my experience, they actually do better indoors than they do outdoors. And I love the fact that they're actually quite vocal plants. Like when they are thirsty, you know that they are thirsty because all their leaves will fold up. When you're giving them too much light, you know that is the case because all their leaves will fold up. They are dramatic, but not in a way that is, toxic, like your Calatheas or your peace lilies. So in my experience, these guys have actually fared better inside my house. One thing I've actually come to accept is just because I live in a tropical climate doesn't mean I have to grow every plant outdoors. Some plants actually prefer and actually do better indoors, and this is one I can categorically say so. I also have one that I've kept adjacent a window in my plant room. That one is not growing as much, but at the same time, she's not calling up as annoyingly as when I was attempting to grow her outdoors. So Scindapsis, honestly, I think these plants were actually meant to be indoor plants. Honestly, I can't even imagine myself growing these outdoors after seeing how well behaved they are indoors. So yeah, we need to get back to falling in love with Scindapsis, guys. Just because a plant is out of style doesn't necessarily mean you won't have it in your collection. So yeah, by the way, are you guys feeling this my new camera? I just got it and I'm honestly fascinated with all the shooting modes. This is currently in portrait mode. If you like this whole vibe, let me know and I'm going to continue to use it, but so far I'm feeling it. Okay, so the next one, let's not get distracted and carried away. The next one is Homalomena, specifically a particular Homalomena. Now I want to preface this by saying just because these plants prefer to grow indoors doesn't necessarily always mean that they are easy plants. Some of them can honestly be a bit of a pain. Okay? And I think this is the perfect one. This is the Homalomena wallisii. I've spoken enough. Let me bring her up. Oh, Jesus. Oh, you guys, being a plant content creator is not easy. Having to hold this plant while holding your microphone. Look at, oh, but she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. She is beautiful. I don't know why. I don't know why this particular plant is not a common plant for you guys overseas. In this part of the world, she's fairly common. I mean, you will definitely run into her if you search hard enough. But I don't tend to see this in your collections. What is the tea? What is the problem? So I feel like the more common one I tend to see in your collection is the Homalomena selby, which ironically is super rare here. But this one is the, I think, Homalomena camouflage. Hence the beautiful camouflage pattern. Now, okay, so this plant, oh, she can be a pain. She can be a pain. She absolutely doesn't like it outdoors. I think where this plant is native to, she's native to like a deep forest, like a very deep forest. And she grows in like the under canopy of trees, somewhere where it's very deeply shaded. So my dear, if you attempt to grow this one, especially if you live in a country that's an oven or it's a very hot summer and you bring this one outdoors, even in shade, she's going to be miserable. She is going to be miserable. In my experience, I've attempted to grow these guys several times, but now I have the common sense to grow her indoors, which is what I'm currently doing. They prefer the indoor environment. I have brought this babe outside to my veranda. My veranda is really shaded, and I'm hoping I do not make them. I'm hoping that is not a grave mistake. But for the most part, she has been growing indoors, and you know, so far so good. She's a very slow grower, Like literally, will just give you maybe one leaf in a month. So if you're gonna get this plant, ensure that you get a full one, a fully grown one. Also, she is in a self-watering pot, which has been a massive game changer for me, because not only is it a plant that cannot tolerate heat, cannot tolerate overexposure, cannot tolerate excessively bright light. You dare not, in your right senses, give this plant direct sunlight. You dare not do that. But it's also a very, very thirsty girly. She's very thirsty. The only way you can keep this plant alive is if you grow it in a self-watering pot. I managed to find this really big self-watering pot, but it does the job, right? If you can grow it in a self-watering pot or like a semi-hydro setup like pond or leca. So just bear that in mind if you want to put this in your collection. But oh my goodness, every single person I know that grows this outdoors in this country struggles. The only time I've seen it really flourishing, or the only situations where I've seen it flourishing outdoors here, is in a garden that is very shaded, like a tropical garden that is deeply shaded. There's so much trees. And we all don't have that in our apartments or our balconies or our porches. Just grow this one indoors. Now, I don't know if this is true for every single Homalomena, but in my experience, this babe is this babe is definitely one you want to grow inside your house, not outdoors. Okay, let me drop her. She's heavy. The next one I want to talk about is a definition of the fact that just because a plant is native to a tropical climate, tropical in quote, doesn't necessarily mean that it would do well in a tropical country. At least not in a tropical country that is literally hellfire like this nation. Pilea peperomioides. Yeah, Pilea peperomioides. Let me give you an interesting story. When this plant hit the Nigerian plant market like 3 years ago, it took everyone in the plant community, you know, by storm. Everyone was obsessed with this plant. All the nurseries stocked this plant. We stocked it. It sold out. But every single one that I know of that bought this plant in this nation, it died. It died. In fact, it became an interesting situation whereby some of the nurseries that even brought this plant in, they were literally giving out this plant for free. They were like, please, who wants this plant? Come and take it. I actually grew this plant at one point, and I grew a beautiful specimen. So I figured, okay, maybe it was their fault. because clearly mine is doing well. It was beautiful, it was really bouncy and thick and juicy. But when it became the dry season, the moment the rainy season ended and we entered the dry season, the plant just died. It just died. It absolutely could not stand, not even so much the direct sunlight, but the heat in this country outdoors was just too much for it, and it declined. And that was what was happening to every single one in this nation that bought this plant. So typically the idea of growing plants indoors for Nigerians is sort of like a new concept, because we have the climate to grow it outdoors. So it's just now that things are beginning to change and more people are beginning to actually grow plants indoors. Back then when this plant came to the scene, we all grew it outdoors. There was absolutely no consideration that maybe grow it indoors. Maybe it would prefer to be grown indoors. So knowing what I know now, and especially having the indoor setup that I have now, because I didn't have an indoor setup before, I was primarily an outdoor plant girly. Knowing what I know now, if I have that plant again, I have a feeling it will do better indoors. But yeah, Pilea peperomioides for sure. Everyone knows if you're growing this plant outdoors in this country, you might get to be growing it successfully outdoors during the rainy season, but during the dry season, you're on your own. You are on your own. Which leads me to the next plant on this list, and I feel like this is why this plant has the North American, the European girlies on a chokehold. Because honestly, this is a genus that actually does great indoors. It actually does better indoors than outdoors. It is Anthuriums. I used to have a very diverse and extensive Anthurium collection, but since I moved into this apartment, this has been the only Anthurium I've been able to keep alive. And yes, I'm just using this as an opportunity to show her off my variegated Anthurium hookery. I talk about her every single opportunity, but yeah, this has been the only Anthurium I've been able to keep alive. I once had a beautiful crystallilum. I once had an Anthurium silver blush that was just a beautiful full bush that was the talk of town. I once had an Anthurium clarivium, and they just all eventually declined and died because the outdoor growing conditions in this apartment are just not shaded enough. In my previous apartment, I feel like it was such a sweet setup. My new apartment is extremely exposed, extremely sunny. It's west facing and south facing. So even if I provide shade outdoors, the girlies, these Anthurium girlies cannot handle it. They cannot handle it. They do not like the overexposure and they do not like the heat. So knowing what I know now and having the setup, the indoor setup that I have now, I honestly feel like I would have been able to keep these guys alive had I been growing them entirely indoors. Okay, so I have learned that just because I live in a tropical country doesn't mean I have to grow every single plant outdoors. And also the cautionary tale to be learnt from this is just because the weather is warmer and hotter outdoors doesn't mean you should bring that plant outdoors. Okay, these plants I've mentioned, in my experience, especially if you get really hot summers, just leave them inside your house. Leave them inside your house. Okay, I know the idea of growing them outdoors because of the accelerated and faster growth. Trust me, every plant grows faster outdoors, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they fare better outdoors. So Anthuriums, in my experience, that Anthurium that I showed you, the variegated Anthurium hookery, not only is she like amazing, iconic, delicious looking, but in my experience, she's a bit more heat tolerant than other Anthuriums I have grown. This next one, in fact, this next entire genus, again, is proof that just because a plant, prefers the indoor conditions, doesn't necessarily mean that it is an easy plant. Calatheas, love. Calatheas. I used to have an iconic Calathea corner in my veranda. My veranda, oh my goodness, used to be like the Calatheas. They were just absolutely doing well, absolutely in heaven. They were in love. And then the dry season happened. So the dry season is our summer, so to speak, because in this country it's it's warm all year round, but during the dry season it gets really hot. it gets insanely hot. Like it's Texas summer, basically. So these girlies, despite the fact that they were in the veranda, they all perished. They all started misbehaving. The ambient temperature, even in that shaded corner in the veranda, just wasn't it. And unfortunately, back then, I didn't have this the setup, the indoor setup, and I also didn't have the mindset that I have now. Back then, I just always believed that it was best to grow every plant outdoors. Like, so if I really liked a plant, I was going to put it outdoors so it would grow really fast and give me the best result. I have come to experience, I've come to realize that is not the case. That is the essence of this video. Had I known what I knew now, all those Calatheas, like especially during the dry season, I would have just moved them. I would have just moved them inside my house or grown them extensively inside my house. That said, there are actually certain Calatheas. I think there's a Makoyana and there's one I've also shown you guys as well. I'm going to insert B-rolls that in my experience, they are more heat tolerant. They have been able to withstand this hellfire weather outdoors and they are doing their thing. But for the most part, Calatheas in my experience, if you can get them to behave indoors, just leave them indoors. Come summer, come spring, you don't have to, please leave them inside your house. Okay, there are a few that I'm currently growing indoors, and I'm not even growing them in the brightest corner indoors, but they're still doing well. Let me see if I can carry them and show you. Well, let me figure out where to keep this microphone. Okay. Oh my goodness, this is in a heavy ceramic pot. But do you guys remember when I bought in one of my videos where I was talking about problematic plants I'm willing to try again? Do you remember when I said I was willing to try this baddie again? Well, it's been about a month or so. Look at her. Look at her. I'm growing her indoors. I have learnt my lesson and I am going to be growing this babe indoors. If you're wondering where I'm looking at, I have a mirror right in front of me just to ensure that I am in frame because I'm filming with the back camera. The things I go through, y'all, to give you guys quality content. So please, if you've not subscribed at this point, please subscribe. I'm begging you. Please, please. So yeah, beautiful and unproblematic since I've been growing her indoors. So knowing what I know now, Calatheas are more indoor friendly than they are outdoor friendly. The only exception is if you have like a garden that is full of a very deeply shaded garden that is full of trees and all of that. Like your garden, your outdoor environment is basically a rainforest. That is the only exception to this rule. A lot of these plants will even prefer such conditions outdoors. Oh, I keep saying, who needs to go to the gym when you have houseplants? Houseplants are all the gymming equipment that you need. Anyway, so this next point, and I really want to include this because it's gonna be very helpful for you, is it's not necessarily a plant per se or a particular type of plant. It's just sometimes a plant that you have in your care, and could even be a plant that is conventionally grown outdoors, right? But sometimes that particular plant just prefers to be indoors. That particular plant, your own plant, others may be growing it outdoors, bringing it outdoors in summer, dumping it in full sun, and you know, they like it, but yours has just learned to appreciate and, you know, prefer indoor growing conditions than outdoor growing conditions. And I have two examples of that. All my friends grow theirs outdoors in shade, but each time I try to bring these guys outside in shade, even in my veranda, everywhere, it just starts to wilt. It just prefers indoors. Like it has acclimated so much to being indoors that it just prefers it and is doing well. Fast enough. Let me show her. So I don't know how I thought this was going to fit the frame. I may need to insert B-rolls, but my bed of paradise, babes. My bed of paradise. I remember coming to lament to you guys that I have attempted to grow a bed of paradise outdoors on several occasions, but they just always died. It just always looked miserable. And then I remember getting this one, But even in the veranda, it looks miserable. Even in my shaded veranda, it looked miserable until I moved it indoors. And guys, this is the best looking this plant has been. Like, she's even popping out a new leaf. Like, honestly, who would have thought? This babe likes to be inside. She likes to be inside. If I bring her outdoors in the veranda, she's like, no. If I bring, you certainly don't want to bring her outdoors, outside the veranda for sure. She's gonna throw a tantrum. Yeah, better paradise. Who would have honestly thought? Oh yeah, she's gonna be indoors. I'm not gonna bring this babe outdoors. I maybe during the rainy season see how she fares, and then if she's like, oh, I'm gonna take her back inside my house. But yeah, when it comes to plants, don't fix what isn't broken. No. If you see that they're doing well in that space, and everywhere you've read on the internet, they've told you, no, give it much light. But if you see that plant is doing well in that space, then absolutely do not fix what isn't broken, babes. This next one, I'm not even going to attempt to fit her in frame. But I've talked about her on several occasions. It's actually right here in this little corner, chilling, which is her favorite corner in this entire house. My Dieffenbachia Big Ben Variegata. In fact, this one, I think she's a special case because mine does not want to be outside. I have tried everything. I have babied her. I've grown her underneath my shade nets. I have grown her in the veranda. I have tried. She doesn't want to be outside. Bearing in mind that all my friends that live in this Hellfire Nation, they grow theirs outdoors. Even in full sun, theirs takes full sun. They grow it outdoors. But mine, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I brought her indoors and she just liked it, and so I kept her indoors, and since then I have tried to acclimate her to grow outdoors just so that she could grow faster, because I'm being greedy. She grows really fast here, but outdoors obviously she's going to grow a lot faster, and she's going to be bigger, but she doesn't want it. She just wants to be inside here, and I've just made up my mind, wherever I go, this babe is going to be an indoor plant. She's now permanently and perpetually an indoor plant. So I did have to mention that there are certain instances where a plant, it could not even be a conventional indoor plant. It could be a plant that everyone advises that you grow outdoors, but in your collection, in your home, this plant clearly prefers to be indoors. Don't fix what isn't broken. Don't try to acclimate her to being outdoors. Don't try to take her outdoors. Just leave her indoors where she is. Okay. Yeah, anyways, my loves, this video is going to be very timely, especially as summer is coming around. I know you're going to be tempted, and people are going to even pressure you to bring out some of these plants outdoors. But honestly, I'm going to make a separate video. Growing plants outdoors has its perks, but honestly it can be very, very challenging. I have found, in my experience, growing plants outdoors, certainly in this nation, I found it to be a bit more challenging than growing plants indoors. But that is going to be a separate video on its own, so subscribe so you don't miss out on that. In the meantime, darlings, we've come to the end of this video, and I'm really curious to know your thoughts. Let me know, do you like the new filming setup? Are you feeling the portrait mode setup? Or should I go back to the way the setup was before? And also let me know your thoughts on this video. Did you find it helpful? If you did, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, my loves.